Alrighty, well, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning or good evening, depending on when people are watching this after the fact. My name is Erin Satterwhite David. I use she, hers pronouns, and I'm I'm the assistant director for membership here at ASHE, and I'm very, very excited to welcome you all to the first Membership Monday of 2025, which is going to be our call for proposals and for volunteers. For this conversation, I have some folks who know much more about this process than I do. And so I'll have them introduce themselves. We'll talk a little bit about the agenda and then we'll jump right in. As you all can see, there's already some conversations happening in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to throw it in the chat. You can raise your hand or put yourself off mute. There will also be sometimes designated where we'll ask if anyone has questions, so you can save them for there. But if you can't save them, definitely throw them in the chat. Myself, Alicia, will be able to kind of help you out with that. Otherwise, I'm going to pass it over to Alicia so she can introduce herself, and then I'll pass it over to Dr. Tonisha Lane, who is joining us, who will introduce herself.
Thank you, Erin. Hello, everyone. My name is Alicia Castillo Shrestha. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Associate Director for Conference and Events for ASHE, and it's my great pleasure to be here with you today to help walk you through any questions you have and give you a little bit more information about the call for proposals and the call for volunteers for ASHE. I'm joining today from the traditional ancestral homelands of the Miami and Shawnee in Southwest Ohio. And I am very excited to also be joined by one of our amazing co-chairs for the program committee this year, Dr. Tonisha Lane.
Hi, good afternoon, at least for me, everyone. I am Dr. Tonisha Lane. I use she, her pronouns. I'm coming from the ancestral homelands of the Tutelo and Monacan people. I'm an associate professor of higher education at Virginia Tech.
Thank you so much. And I forgot to say where I was coming from. I'm coming from the traditional homelands of the Calahouchian people in Sugar Land, Texas. So thank you both so much for being here today. I wanted to very quickly kind of just go over a bit of an outline so that folks kind of know what they are to expect from today's recording. So starting off with kind of an overview, talking about the section formats and a bit about volunteer options. Then we're going to be going into the CFP resources. So steps to submitting a proposal, guidelines, how-tos, examples. And really for all of this, it's not going to be a PowerPoint, but we're going to be getting into these websites and we're going to be showing you examples. And then at any point, during that time, if you have questions, you can do that, but we'll have a specific dedicated Q&A portion for any questions that may not get answered in any of those sections. So I will go on ahead and stop sharing my screen for now. And then I will pass it over to folks who know a lot more than I do. Alicia, do you want to take it over?
I don't think Erin's given herself enough credit, but for those of you who haven't been a part of the Membership Mondays, encourage you to get to know Erin and what she's offering to all ASHE members and potential members. She's doing some amazing work for our association, so we're very grateful to her. Tanisha and I are here to help usher y'all through the call for proposals and call for volunteers documents, answer questions, and just share a little bit about what our amazing volunteers have been working on over these past few months in terms of not just getting the call for proposals created and out there in the world, but also to support y'all in this process. Because I think the major thing we want y'all to know is we're on your team. We want you to succeed. We want you to be this to be a great process for you, whether it's your first time volunteering, your first time submitting, or if you're coming back to ASHE after having been away. No matter where you're coming to the association or to the conference experience from, we want you to know we're happy that you're here, and we know that with the state of the world, the state of our higher education communities, we all need to support each other now more than ever. So just want to also remind myself to take a deep breath because we're all carrying a lot, even without all the craziness. We're all people outside of what we do for ASHE and our campuses and our organizations. So we're here to support you in and your full selves as well. So don't be afraid to ask questions in the chat. There are no silly questions. please also use the direct message if you're more comfortable with that. You can also email us after the fact. We'll put our contact information in the chat and on the end of the presentation as well. So if you are able, if you're not able to get your question answered here, feel free to follow up if that's a more comfortable place or if you need to leave us early. But to start us out, I'm going to have Dr. Lane just give us a brief kind of high-level overview of the call for proposals. And for those of you who are familiar with this process and have some expertise and tips to share, please do so in the chat. We're not the only ones who have things to bring to this conversation. So I know I see some seasoned volunteers, some former and current members of the conference committee on the call. So please feel free to chime in as well to offer in some additional support for folks. But Dr. Lane, I'll let you talk a little bit just about the call for proposals, and we can thank you. Erin has the link there in the chat as well if you'd like to follow along while Dr. Lane gives us just a brief introduction.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So again, this year's theme, and we're really excited because we're celebrating the 50th anniversary. So the theme is the bend and the arc, activists, proxies, and justice through scholarly creative expression. I want to just remind everyone that we do have a virtual conference day that you can also apply for. And so that's Thursday, October 30th. And then a general conference happens from November 12th through 15th. As you can see, it's fairly easy to move through the different sections of the call for proposals. There's these really great tabs on the side. So you can click on there to navigate it, especially if you have the features. I think I have some additions on my browser, so it may or may not look like this for you all. But if you don't have that, I would strongly encourage you because it helps to kind of move along. So this is our conference theme that is written by Dr. Zamani Gallagher, who is the president for this year. And essentially, she highlights the work of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and identifying that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And given the scholar that Dr. Zamani Gallagher is, she wants us to bring together scholarly activity and creative expression. And so this gives us a lot of more flexibility potentially as scholars and thinkers and contributors to the field and the ways that we may want to convey our research this year or things we would like to submit. Also, I want to make sure that everyone knows that connection to the theme is not a criterion for evaluation of any proposal. So if you are connecting your research to the theme, great. If not, we still want to see your wonderful work submitted as a proposal. And then I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. This is the conference committee. These are the different leadership team members, so some of which are represented here. Local and community engagement, attendee engagement, as well as information from the program committee. And then conference program format updates are also available here, as well as proposal submission reviews and guidelines. And so it gives you some limitations. Participants may be included in a maximum of 4 general conference proposals total, regardless if you're co-author, symposium, or participant. So as you're deciding what to submit or how to collaborate, you just want to be conscious of that. Also, you can submit based on the different topical areas. So let me see if I can get to that. Oh, and there's also information about the virtual presentation options if you so choose to participate in that. You have the important dates, and so I would encourage everyone to put those important dates either on your calendar or just make note of them so that you're falling within the guidelines. If you try to submit your proposal after the deadline, it will not be accepted. So definitely try to get your proposals in early. If you're a last minute person like me who may get yours in the day of, maybe try getting it in the night before, for example. So you just don't want to miss the deadline because you've done wonderful work and we want to definitely see it highlighted at the conference. And then it gives you other information about when you should expect to hear back about reviews, as well as other opportunities for awards during the conference. And then this just talks more about proposal submissions and reviews. So again, those limitations, how we assign reviewers. And so again, as you sign up to be someone who's submitting your work, also you should be signing up to participate as a reviewer. We also have opportunities for discussant or chair. So if you are interested in those roles, all of those deadlines are on the same day. So want to keep that in mind. Let me pull up that deadline really quickly. Sorry, I should have did this in the previous order.
That's okay. It's April 30th.
April 30th. Yeah, we don't want to forget that. So here it is here, April 30th at 3 p.m. Denver Mountain Time. So the time is also important. So I know there are some conferences that you can submit your work anytime on a particular date. In our case, it has to be 3 p.m. Denver Mountain Time. Again, this is more information about call for volunteers. And then information about submitting a proposal, which Alicia will go into a little bit more detail, but just want to let you know that there are different sections. So either pre-conference or general conference formats, as well as presentation formats. So you have work in progress, scholarly paper sessions, interactive symposium, self-designed paper sessions, and all of that is listed in here. So when you're submitting a proposal, then you can select a section and it tells you what those details are about those sections. So lots of great detail for those of us that need all of that detail. Also the length of your title, your abstract, all of that information is listed here, methodology. And just checking my notes to see if I missed anything. And again, just want to reiterate volunteering. So we can't make these conferences happen without all of our wonderful volunteers. So in addition to submitting a proposal, make sure that you're also signing up to volunteer in some capacity. Again, the submission book talks about our pre-conferences. So if that's more of your interest, we have KHAP, which is around advancing higher education programs and people that do research around that work. The public policy in higher education. And again, these are the proposal formats. And what is also the proposal formats that you can submit based on how you're submitting. So general versus virtual, KHAP, CEP, which is our ethnic participation, CIHE, which has to do with international higher education, and CPPHE, again, the policy higher education. So again, you just want to verify if there's a certain way you want to present certain format that is acceptable for whether it's general conference or a pre-conference. So we went through that a little quickly, but any questions about anything I said or anything that I missed, Alicia or Erin, that I should highlight?
No, I think it is a lot of information. It's hopefully it's a great introduction to the call for proposals PDF document itself. But I do want to encourage y'all to start sending in questions in the chat. If anyone wants to unmute, you can also unmute and ask a question. The next piece we're going to go through is kind of the support materials and the website, which has a lot of great pieces to help support your proposal and make sense of all the amazing work that the program committee and the conference committee put into that document, which, yes, I find Control F to find what you're looking for, put in your keywords in the PDF and find what your question is. That will definitely help distill that information down to what you need. But yeah, I'll stop talking for a sec and give a beat for folks if you need to unmute or raise your hand or put something in the chat, and we can start answering some specific questions that y'all might have at this point.
Alicia, and apologies if you are going to maybe touch on this a little bit later, but maybe for some of the folks who are on the call who have presented with us before, are there any major changes that have happened to the call for proposals this year as opposed to last year or maybe recent years that you all would like to highlight?
Thank you, Erin. Yes, that's a great question. So, a couple things I think come to mind. The first one is that the pre-conference for CEP, the Council on Ethnic Participation, is only accepting virtual proposals this year as their peer-reviewed portion of the CEP pre-conference is going to be purely virtual. You do get an in-person experience with the CEP pre-conference, but that will be separate programming this year, and that's something that's very new. So the CEP community is they hosted a couple of like open Q&A sessions about it, but they're also hosting a support session, which we'll touch on towards the end of this webinar, so you know more about that. But encourage you to check out the website for the CEP pre-conference, which we could probably put in the chat, to just be aware that that is now in two parts. So there's a virtual conference day, the virtual colloquium for the CE pre-conference, which is going to take place on Wednesday, October 29th. And in addition to that peer-reviewed content, folks who participate in that pre-conference will also have in-person programming in Denver for the conference. That takes place on that Wednesday, the 12th. So that's a big change for this year. The other piece is that we have for those of you who are graduate students on the call today, there is a graduate student, I guess we're not calling it a scholarship. It's an award for a poster session. So we're having, if you're a graduate student and you're considering what kind of format you might want to present and you have the capacity to consider a poster, there's going to be an award attached to a selection for a graduate student poster this year, which is a great addition. And so that's also in the call for proposals as well. The other piece is for discussants. If you are someone who maybe doesn't have a terminal degree, but you have substantial experience, 10 plus years of practical experience as a practitioner or otherwise, you can serve as a discussant on certain proposals. So that is a change that happened last year that we're continuing this year. So if you or colleagues that you know haven't volunteered in the past because you didn't have a terminal degree or you thought you were ineligible because you don't have a terminal degree to be a discussant, you actually can with 10 plus years of I mean, it's not a hard set 10 years, but with substantial practical experience. And so that information is also in the call for proposals. As I know, we typically have questions about who can volunteer and what can I volunteer for. We graduate students, folks with a master's degree can serve as third reviewers for posters and works in progress. So even if you don't have a terminal degree, you can still be a reviewer. If you're a candidate, if you're in a postdoc program, you can be a reviewer as well. So those are the things that I would highlight that come to mind.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I will.
There's a question in the chat. I can read it out for you if you'd like.
Mhm.
From looking through the link, and this is from Amanda, is the session chair role the only volunteer opportunity recommended for early career doctoral students, i.e. within their first year or two, not yet a candidate?
Um, I'll give my thoughts and then other folks can chime in, but I would say no. I think a reviewer, a chair, yes. A reviewer is another opportunity. And for a um we need reviewers for works in progress and for posters. I'm trying to think if there's other formats that would lend to your experience. But if you have, years of experience as a practitioner, that could also be another opportunity. But you don't need substantial experience. You do need some, obviously. You're going to share kind of what your background is, but you could be placed to be a third reviewer for a variety of sessions, even if you are a first or second year doctoral student, depending on, the background and the experience you have. Great question.
I will also toss in, we're doing our call for volunteers now because there's a lot of volunteer opportunities that are happening leading up to the conference, but we'll also be having an additional call of sorts for some volunteer roles if anyone's interested in helping out on site. So there's going to be some on-site pieces that we'll definitely be needing assistance with, which would be a great opportunity for graduate students. And so that's just another opportunity that you can expect coming down the pipeline.
Okay, I see a couple questions coming in. So let's see. Tips for first-time conference participants, like tips for submission proposal. That's a great question. And Erin, can correct me if I'm wrong, because I think we have a whole other like membership event around like first-time attendees for the conference. So that would be a great event to attend. I think we can. I mean, that's a whole other session all on to its own. But we're happy to have and welcome participants. So I think maybe we can follow up, Erin, with this person to make sure you're plugged in because we have lots of tips and events to support you as a first time attendee. So we will definitely follow up, but I definitely want to give space for additional questions around the proposal and for volunteering. And I see one around registration discount for volunteering. So Registration discount? No, not for volunteering, not for registration. However, so as a small boutique, intimate association, I will say ASHE does rely on all of the registration funds and membership funds that come in to run the association. And so though that investment in the association is very important, and we do appreciate folks able to we recognize it's an investment when you have to come out of pocket if you're not being sponsored by your organization, which we know is very rare, especially now. So unfortunately, we aren't able to offer a discount for all of our amazing volunteers. We do have hundreds of volunteers that serve in various capacities for the association every year. Everybody from, the board of directors, all the way to like conference committee reviewers, folks that serve on professional development committees. So we do have a lot of volunteers, and unfortunately, we're not able to give a discount for everyone who volunteers. But we do show our appreciation in other ways, and we do encourage you to volunteer. And we can talk you through kind of the investment and maybe connect you with other folks that have volunteered to kind of get a sense of the time investment. It's listed in the some of our documents, but if you have specific questions about the time that it would take and how that might fit with your schedule, we're happy to talk to you specifically about that as well. Okay.
Then John, I know that your hand is raised. You have a question?
Yeah, I'm John Sandstrom at New Mexico State University. I am interested in proposing a interactive symposium, but I'm not sure how to find fellow panelists who are already members of ASHE to join me. Is there a place where I can send out a call for panelists, or would that be appropriate to take to our listserv? Because in addition to my work in educational leadership, I'm also a librarian, and I'm trying to find other librarians who are part of ASHE. Thank you.
That's a great question. And I love that you're looking at an interactive symposia. I feel like that's not a format that enough people know about. But it's a great format, and we really find that it's really impactful for folks. So basically, a panel discussion with the audience members around a topic. So Erin and Tanisha, I'll let you also chime in with thoughts. My initial thought is if you reach out to us, we can help connect you with some folks. I know there's a lot of volunteers that know, and our ASHE staff who've been around for a while that probably have people that they could think of fairly easily. It's a great question about the listserv. That's one that I think I would need to take back to the ASHE staff to see if that could be something that could work. But I think between like working with our network, organic grassroots kind of organization, we can find a good list to start from. And then we can follow up with additional pieces. But I love that question. And John, we'd be happy to support you in finding folks to be co-presenters. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Alicia, I know we have a new website and there was opportunities to either share your information or not. Is there a way to query for things like that if for people that made their information available to anyone who has access to the directory?
That's a great question. Erin, do you know about the directory status, if we're using that or not?
So the directory's not up yet. So, and I think in theory there could be a way for us um to utilize that. I'd have to look more into it. Um, I'm also considering, hmm, I know that there are some capabilities for some other kind of like announcement call outs. And so I think we'll have to take that back to the team and do some creative brainstorming to figure out if there's something that we could do with the directory. Because I feel like that could be a really interesting move. Or if we do a listserv or some other kind of solution, since I know that there was another person that was also in the comments asking a similar question. So that is something we'll get back to everyone on. Once we have kind of an idea of what that might look like, what I can do is send out answers to any unanswered questions to all of the participants after this via email. And then y'all can follow up with any one of us after that if there are further follow-ups. But I wish we had something right now. But I have a couple of ideas. I think we just need to talk through like what might work the best for folks, especially if it's more than just like one or two, which I imagine it could potentially be.
Great.
Thank you all very much. If you
Yeah.
have any way I can help, please let me know.
Thanks,
Thank
John.
you.
And I think in the meantime, Alicia's idea about going back to the program committee or different staff members could help in the interim to kind of find some people that may fit what John is looking for.
Mhm.
I know when you
Absolutely.
have a new website, you got to get all the kinks out first. So I was just curious if it allowed us to do that.
Yes. And speaking of the new website, I do want to show y'all before I know some folks have to hop off a little early. So I want to make sure folks know what's here. So our new ASHE website is wonderful and we love it. It does have a learning curve. So if you haven't been to the ASHE website in a while, or this is going to be your first time visiting for your submission, I encourage you to spend a little time, get to know the site. You will have to like create kind of a new login. If you were logged into our old website and to submit for the conference, you will need to create a new one. This is also important when it comes to your co-collaborators, right? So if you do have collaborators that, as John mentioned, maybe already are ASHE members, that makes it a bit easier. If they're not, they can still submit, but and to be included on the proposal, they need to have an ASHE website, and they can do that for free and set that up. So I want to just hover over this conference tab here to show you the rich information that's in here. So you've got the call for proposals and call for volunteers. So this takes us to this landing page here to give you some information about the call for proposals. And I also wanted to show these how-to guides on the side. So here's the PDF document that we were looking through a bit ago. These how-to guides are helpful for folks who kind of want to see some step-by-step information and screen grabs of the submission site. So you can go into the submission site and do a test essentially without actually submitting, but you can go through and practice and go through and see what the system is going to ask you. We use All Academic, which I know some folks are familiar with AERA and other associations, but these how-to guides are helpful because it shows you the screen grabs. And if you're unfamiliar with All Academic, it'll kind of walk you through, okay, I have to select my section first, and then it's going to ask me to choose the format and accept the terms of agreement, and it shows you each step on how to do that. So this is very handy, and we have it for a couple of different formats here. The important dates that Dr. Lane mentioned are here linked as well. We have the format updates that Erin was asking about are highlighted here. Okay, so the graduate student poster, it's an award. Okay, I want to make sure I wasn't naming it incorrectly. So it's an award for graduate student posters, a poster rather, that's selected for this award, which is a $750 award, which is really a wonderful opportunity that we're able to provide thanks to some of our generous donors. So that's new for this year. So if you're a grad student or you have grad students that you know, please make them aware of this opportunity. That is new for this year. Virtual presentation options. We know some folks aren't able to travel or prefer not to travel. So in addition to our virtual conference day for the general conference, we mentioned the CEP virtual forum, and that is linked there so you can kind of see the opportunities. We do get questions about submission. Can I submit to both? You cannot. You need to submit to one, either the virtual conference day, and then you have to select a specific section when you are submitting to the virtual conference day. For example, if it's going to be for the CEP pre-conference, or if it's going to be for a specific section, which Dr. Lane gave you some preview on that. So you can only submit to one or the other. So for the same proposal. You could submit one proposal to virtual conference day. You could submit another proposal to the in-person conference. You could submit another proposal to one of the pre-conferences that we offer. That is permissible, but the same proposal can't be submitted to more than one section. There's contact information at the bottom of this page. The other piece I want to show you that's helpful are the example proposals. So these example proposals are available on the website. So you do have to be logged in. So if you haven't created your account or if you're not logged into the website, it won't show you these links. So you do need to just make sure you're logged into the site to be able to review them. This is intellectual property that was approved for sharing with the ASHE community for this purpose by the authors. So we're very grateful to them to allow us to share, to give folks an idea about what proposals could and should look like. So you can scroll through those and review them in order to help as you have questions and you're preparing your submission. And we also, going back to the call for proposals page, I want to make sure that we have the steps to submission, which I think is a separate piece. So back up to the conference drop down, call for proposals, steps to submit. So this is another page that's helpful in terms of just helping you make sure that you're thinking through all the pieces. Some of it's obviously very basic, but we also put important information in here in terms of like considering your collaborators, the amount of time it takes if someone needs to create a new ASHE account. So for example, if you're one of the last minute people like Dr. Lane was mentioning, and you're like, oh, I need to add my collaborators. Oops, I thought they had an ASHE account. They do not. We need to get them set up. Just gives you some information about how long it takes to create a new record and get that up and going. What I just mentioned about selecting a section or a pre-conference is there, the different formats. We do have some links here to some short YouTube videos. So if you like kind of a video format, in addition to the information that's written down in the call for proposals, these have video formats that kind of walk you through the same information, but kind of a visual feel. It's branded for last year because we had some amazing videos created last year. We don't have the capacity to recreate them this year, but the information is the same. So forgive us for the information being branded for last year, but hopefully it's still helpful. So that's there. In addition to submitting reviewing the requirements, and then obviously a lot of our reviewers remind us to have people proofread, have someone else look at your submission before you submit. Something we probably recommend to our students and our colleagues, but sometimes we don't leave enough time for ourselves to do that. And then it walks you through logging in. Confirmation and celebration. One thing I did want to mention is you will receive a confirmation email when your submission is received. If you do not receive a confirmation email, it is not submitted and it has not been received. So I want to make sure that you look out for that confirmation email. If you run into any issues or you don't see it, definitely reach out to us so we can make sure that we troubleshoot with you. We don't want anything to fall through the cracks. We want your hard work to be received and that you get timely updates on the process. Okay. So I went through a lot here on the website, so I want to pause and see if there's things that we need, questions coming in or things that we need to address or other pieces from Erin and Tonisha.
So I did answer a couple of questions in the chat that I wanted to just put onto the recording. So one of the questions was, were all the example proposals accepted? And yes, so all of the exemplars that are on our website are proposals that were accepted and are really great places to see what the committees are looking for and what the reviewers are looking for in a presentation. The second question that I answered in the chat was speaking more to the graduate poster presentation award and where they can find more information about the criteria. And so that information is not yet available on the website. I'm hoping within maybe the next month or two, we should be able to have that. So additional information will be disseminated to everyone. Make sure you check your emails. But the existing information you can find again on the call for proposal site. It's about halfway down the page. There's that little blurb of information right under virtual, under proposal submissions and reviews.
Well, we curate some more questions. I just wanted to mention, in terms of like looking at the examples and doing your best to prepare a submission that will be received well, one thing I know our reviewers really appreciate is when things are organized according to how they need to review it. And so one thing I just wanted to point out here in the call for proposals document with each of these formats. So this is an example from the performance visual and digital scholarship format. So if you're preparing a submission for like a photo voice research that you've been doing, you might submit it as a PVDS session, a full session, or you could submit it as just a 15-minute presentation. Either way, in here, it's going to show you, your word count, and each of this formats has this information, the kind of the word count, and it should describe the following, preferably in this order. So it's really a lot easier for the reviewers when they're going through your proposal if you can order your information as it's listed in the call for proposals so that they can follow that easily, because sometimes all the information is there but it's not really organized very well. And so we've gotten lots of feedback from the reviewers that they really appreciate the submissions that are organized in the way that it's outlined in the call for proposals. So I would say that's one key piece to make sure you're paying attention to. Also want to offer up if there's other folks that have presented at ASHE in the past and have some key tips for the group, please feel free to put those in the chat or unmute and share. But I know that's something that's very well received by the program committee and all the reviewers when they're looking at their proposals.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add a little bit more for the questions around first-time submitters, proposal submitters. That, I mean, this goes without saying, but you want to start early. And if you're drawing from other work, so sometimes we have doctoral students who may be drawing from their dissertation work that is in progress or in development, or maybe you even have some findings, making sure that you're pulling the relevant content that is related to the proposal. So you need to have your purpose statement. You need to have research questions, something about your methods, something about your theory, something about your findings. And it also helps sometimes as someone that has been a reviewer in the past, if someone indicates, this paper will be completed by the deadline, of paper submission. Because if you are submitting, for example, for a research paper, it is expected that you write, or a scholarly paper, it is expected that you write a paper and you'll submit it on time. So also just giving enough information that the reviewer is confident that you have the content to actually submit the paper on time, and that you will have something that will be presentation ready, worthy when you get to the conference. Also reading the call for proposals in its entirety, or at least the points that are relevant. So for my research team, I have doc students that are new to this whole process, and I often have them first starting with reading the call for proposals and just what's expected for you, because some conferences may have different expectations. And so you can't write this proposal always as if you were writing for some other kind of conference or a presentation outlet. Marking the deadlines on your calendar. So I usually mark the actual deadline and then also a week or two before to just make sure I am working on that proposal so I get it in on time. I appreciate Alicia bringing up the co-presenters. Actually do your co-presenters first. Like, make sure their information is in there. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten everything in and then I'm like, wait a minute, my co-presenters aren't here. And so now I'm having to go back and add that information. So you might even want to start with adding your co-presenters before you even upload your presentation to make sure they're in there. Determining the best format for you. And so that goes back to reading the call for proposals, and then definitely using the example proposals. So read through those as well, depending on the format you're going to submit, and using that to help you organize or think through your proposal and what you should include. Because again, for those of you that may be drawing from a dissertation or maybe a larger body of research, you can't get everything in there, but how do you make sure you get the main points in there to convey to the reviewer you have something worth sharing at the conference?
Thank you, Dr. Lane. Oh, go ahead, Erin.
Oh yeah, I wanted to jump in with a couple of things. So I will say also for our works in progress, um, we recognize that works in progress might mean a lot of different things, and you might be at varying stages of that idea, but really taking into consideration like what information you can bring together about your potential idea, so that there is enough information for reviewers to adequately review whether this whether this is going to be something that you'll be able to pull together, for the conference. And again, not something that you necessarily have to complete if you're doing a works in progress, but there needs to be enough information there to fully understand the concept of the idea. I just know that that's something that I hear from a lot of our reviewers who are looking at those works in progress pieces. So even if you're just doing a works in progress, we know that that means a lot of different things, but make sure that there is a fully formed idea there. Um, I do know that there was quickly in the chat. Okay, yes. If to submit a research proposal, do I need to have findings already? And then Dr. Lane said, if it is a research paper, you should at least have some preliminary findings based on the data analysis to date. So that is a technically, you don't need to have all of it together, but that there should be some preliminary findings because like she said, the expectation is that it will be completed at least a month before the conference. Give time for your discussant to read over, give you feedback for that paper. So just wanted to put that out there for the recording.
Yes, thank you, Erin. We're all on the same page. So this is why I had the works in progress pulled up because this is also, I guess, for those who've been around ASHE for a while, it's a newer title for these sessions. They used to be roundtables, they're works in progress. So you do not need findings for works in progress. So if you aren't sure if you're going to be able to get your data together in time, you might look at this works in progress option. We have had some challenges in the past with folks who thought they would be farther along in the process than they ended up being come November. So we do want, to put that out there that you are going to be expected to present findings for specific formats outside of the works in progress. So if you don't think you're going to have enough time, or if you're not sure, definitely work with your support system and kind of determine the best case scenario. But we have had people have to pull out their submissions because they didn't actually have the findings come time to present. So, and that's definitely something to be considered when you're looking at your timeline and everything. But works in progress is a great option that does not require findings and can be the kind of early stages of a project, as we've talked about. Okay.
If I could add just one more thing, and this is more so of like just tips and tricks for particularly our um first time reviewers, but could be for anyone. I would say as my little piece of advice, just to really think about what you're presenting and then really think about where you might want that to um be submitted to. I know that sometimes our pre-cons don't get as many submissions as the general conference. And if it's something that you're willing to go to the pre-con, if it's something that fits in with the pre-con, then consider maybe looking into putting that in, putting whatever you have into one of the pre-cons that we have, just because there's generally just less folks that are submitting there. So I know I've heard from a couple of our chairs that they are always looking at papers and posters that they say, oh, that could have easily been here or there. So just kind of think about what works best for you, what works best definitely for your schedule, because if you're not planning on being there for a pre-con or if it's not in the cards for you to add that extra expense, we understand. But if it is, might be something to definitely consider.
That's a great point, Erin, and it brings me to another kind of recommendation based on questions we've had in the past. Folks are asked about how many submissions they can put in, and we do want folks to think about you can only appear in the conference program, be it as a presenter or a symposium speaker, etc., 4 times for the general conference. So 4 instances. However, that limit doesn't apply to our pre-conferences. So, for example, if you do have more than one proposal you're considering, or to Aaron's point, if you want to, maybe you're a first timer and you maybe want a smaller audience, about a third of all ASHE conference attendees attend a pre-conference. So yeah, they're more intimate sessions. They'll be smaller. So this is also a great opportunity for first timers or for folks who want to target one of these more specific communities within ASHE. So they're listed here, and they each have their own website as well to talk through. They're all wonderful, led by volunteer leaders who kind of put these programs together. So definitely consider that. But if you're looking at how many submissions you want to do, you do want to be thoughtful of the fact that you can only participate in 4, and that includes if you're on someone else's proposal. So if you're included as a co-author or a co-presenter on someone else's proposal, that counts towards the 4 that you're limited to for the full conference. But again, if you were accepted to a pre-conference, that wouldn't count into the limit that for the 4, if that makes sense. Okay. If we have time, I wanted to show y'all the submission site really quickly. Oh, yes, go ahead. Oh, I saw Sandra and then John. So Sandra, you wanna?
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just had a quick question about the different types of submission. I have a working draft, close to 2,000 words. At first, I was following the scholarly paper guidelines, but looking at the work in progress, I think that's probably where it fits more. It's a I'm trying to create my own conceptual framework and having to introduce to a community of scholars to see, you know, kind of the opinion and kind of bringing forth this idea based on 2 theories that I'm building upon. So I think I'm just looking for some guidance into which category will fit best, and hopefully to have higher chances of getting accepted.
So I think definitely looking at the call for proposals to see the language that's used to help you determine what may be a better fit, whether it's a work in progress or whether it's a scholarly paper. I think also looking at the example paper could help you, the example scholarly paper could help you understand how scholars may propose those types of papers. And again, how close or far away is your working draft to that. Of course, in addition to mentors, anyone that you work with or advisors or anything like that. But I think starting in those 2 places, reading the call for proposals again, and also looking at the example papers may help you determine that a little bit more.
Sounds good. Thank you.
John, I think you had another comment or question.
Yeah, I have another comment, or rather a question. It's in a couple places it says that individual sessions will be grouped with other submissions by the program committee to make sessions. Do you try to connect those by theme or by topic, or can you end up with just here's 5 completely unrelated programs or some submissions that we've just had to put together because they don't fit anywhere else?
We are very careful with selecting programs to the same type of session or topic or theme as you indicated. So me being a program co-chair, that's part of my job, working with the section chairs and co-chairs to make sure that we are grouping accordingly. And it goes through several iterations of review. So we're and thankfully our conference is big, but not as big as other conference organizations. So we can kind of rail some of that in much earlier and with much more ease, maybe than other conferences. So at least in the 10+ years I've been attending ASHE, I have discovered that they're very intentional about that. Very rarely do I see random things put together. Very, very rarely. And like I said, we will also be overseeing that, myself and Dr. Marissa Vasquez, as well as working with our section co-chair. So we do that during the academic semester, but then we also have some work that happens over the summer over like a 2-week period. So great question. But I think ASHE is much better than some other conferences I've attended relative to that question. So thank you for asking it. And I don't know if Erin and Alicia had more to add about that.
There will not be 5 presentations in a session at ASHE. It will be a maximum of 3. So yes, absolutely echo what Tonisha is mentioning. The program committee is an amazing group of 30-ish folks that are going to work hard to make sure there's connection as much as possible between the presentations. Absolutely.
Thank you all very much.
Yes. Okay, I know we're running short on time. An hour goes by quickly. I did want to, I know we have to highlight our additional support sessions. I'm just going to share really quickly so folks can just get a preview. If you haven't been in All Academic, I just wanted you to have a quick preview so you can be a little bit more familiar with it. Can y'all see my all academic screen? Okay, so once you, for those of you who've never proposed with ASHE before, this is kind of the site that you would see when you go in to submit, and you would submit a new proposal, and it's going to walk you through the steps in those that you kind of saw a preview of in those how-to guides. So the first
Is Alicia freezing?
Yeah,
Yes.
Alicia, yeah, might be frozen.
Okay.
Okay, hopefully she'll get back to us in just 1 second. Let me see if I can share my screen and show you on my screen. Let's see. Academic. I feel like this always happens on Zoom. It's like my worst fear, but I've taught classes and just completely gone. So let me see if I can pull up All Academic. I may not have the site. Let's see. I have the site from last year. Let's see. There we are. Alrighty, I'll share my screen. Alrighty. So I believe she was going to show you kind of what to look for if you're submitting. And yours is going to look a little bit different than mine because I am an admin, but you'll come down here, you'll see submit or edit a proposal. So you'll come in, I don't have any submissions found, but if you do have any that you had started submitting or submitted, then they would be here. Submit a new proposal, then you'd see that there are plenty of sections to choose from. So you'd find the section that you're looking for. Let's say I'm looking for leadership in higher education. And then I'm going to click on the individual presentation that I'm looking to submit for. And so they have all of those options that we've been talking about. So let's say I want to do an in-person works in progress. All right, and so then it'll say a little bit about that submission, the dates that you can expect that, you can continue onward, and then it has so much information, your terms of agreement, and it's gonna have all of the information about when you are expected to have this completed. So one of the things that I was talking about a little bit earlier, we have the actual dates and deadlines in here, which is great. So the 23rd, if accepted for in-person or pre-con for our research scholarly papers, self-design papers. For our PVDS by the 23rd, we're going to need that information. And then all of the presenters will want to have their PowerPoint uploaded by the 30th for our in-person. And then you can see the virtual day is a little bit earlier, just because that's also a little bit earlier. And then it gives you the space to add in everything that you need. So that is basically the process. So we just wanted to get eyes on that. But while I'm sharing my screen, I'm just going to go on ahead and talk a little bit more about our, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and just talk a little bit more about what other support series we have coming up. So then the next one that we have is actually coming up really soon. It's next Tuesday. So for folks that are interested in doing a PVDS session, we're doing a showcasing your scholarship, creatively PVDS format and beyond. That's going to be from 2 to 3 Mountain Time. And I'm going to put actually the direct links to all of these in the chat. So this one will be for the webinar. The next one we have is going to be our program committee drop-in hours, number 1. So there's going to be 2 different drop-in hours where I believe Alicia, Jason, as well as some members of our program committee will be there to answer any questions that haven't been answered in this session. We also have that CEP writing and community workshop. And so if you are interested in just getting with some folks to work on your proposal, they'll also be talking a little bit more about the CEP new format. Then there is the sign up for that one. Then there's going to be strategies for submitting a proposal for international research. That's going to be covered by CIHE. So let me add that. And that will be on the 14th. We're really like trying to get these in so that we give y'all a good amount of time to go ahead and finish up those proposals. The last one will be our drop-in hours, which are going to be similar to drop-in hours number 1. So if you can't come to Monday the 7th, then definitely join us on Tuesday the 15th. And there are those. Alrighty, so now that we've gone through that, we're at 58 after the hour. I just wanted to say thank you all so much for joining us. Hopefully we were able to answer all of your questions, but again, if we haven't, there's one of the 5 other sessions that we will be having. We will also be following up with information about how you can find potential panelists, since we will kind of figure out what might work well for that. We do also have the contact information. I'm sorry, Marissa's name is, I believe, misspelled. I think she has 1 R in her name, so apologies there. But definitely reach out to either of the program co-chairs, myself or Alicia, for any other questions. But otherwise, thank you. And we hope that
Erin, can I answer one question before you leave? I'm so sorry.
absolutely.
Brady had a question about, are there certain types of submissions historically accepted? And I think this may be related to format. So I would say that largely depends on the volume. Most people, I would presume, are submitting research papers. And so, because of the volume, there may be more or less research papers accepted, for example, in a given year. Also, interactive symposia takes up more time in the program. So we're only able to accept so many of those because those are typically longer sessions. We probably accept a little bit more posters than some of the other formats because of the space, right? If we have the space to accommodate more posters, we'll take more poster entries if they meet all the criteria. So I don't know if that was exactly your answer, your question, but please feel free to email me, Brady, if you have more specific questions. But at least my understanding of your question, that is kind of how we'll talk about how certain formats are accepted more than others.
Thank you for catching that. I totally did not see that.
Oh, it's okay.
Sorry, I think I'm back if I can chime in real quick too.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Midwest sump pump problems that make your internet go out. If you have a basement, you might know what I'm talking about. But the other piece to consider is this program committee are given amounts that they're allowed to accept by section as well. So it's based on the percentage received overall. So to Dr. Lane's point, how many sessions each section is able to create is going to be based on how many submissions overall there were for the conference. So it's a percentage. But there could be a session that includes a PVDS presentation with a scholarly paper and a research paper. There could be a session that's solely an interactive symposia. So the sessions themselves are made up of different components, but if you submit, you might submit a self-designed paper session, which means you're doing a full 75-minute session that you create. You have the discussant, you have the chair, you have 3 papers that you're talking about, and so that would be accepted as one session. So it is a little bit but confusing sometimes, but is based on overall, so it's a fair process overall, how many were submitted, and that's divvied out among the sections to accept. Hopefully that helps as well.
All right. So I know that there's one last quick question, Alicia, if you want to take that, and then promise we'll wrap it up. But can a paper be accepted as a poster?
No. So a paper needs, so you're going to be, there's different criteria for different formats, right? So they're going to look, the program committee is going to be looking at, and the reviewers will be looking at what was submitted based on the criteria. So you need to follow the criteria for the format. And so it will be accepted or not accepted based on how well it meets the criteria. And again, the volume of proposals, but they'll be considered and evaluated for the format in which it's submitted, if that answers the question. Okay.
I want to thank both of you so much for all of your wisdom and guidance through this process. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We will get this up on YouTube, and then we'll send out the link to everybody so that if there are any parts or pieces that you wanted to run back to, then we'll be able to do that. But yeah, I'll stay on for a little bit if anyone has any other questions, but otherwise have a wonderful rest of your week. And we hope to see you all in Denver.